Have you ever had a time where you put something down and then couldn't find it? You spend ages searching for it only to finally give up and then find it exactly where you thought you had left it later on. I had a similar experience, and this is my story about some missing keys. I recently moved back to the UK from New Zealand. For the first 3 months I rented an Airbnb 1-bedroom flat in a large old house in Surrey in England. Subsequently I moved up to North Yorkshire, England, where I'm living now. Just before COVID-19 lockdown in March, I had to travel back to Surrey for work, and so I decided to rent out the very same flat. I had actually had some strange experiences in that flat during my previous stay. Nothing that significant, but nevertheless, during my first 3 months, once I returned to the flat to hear what sounded like a disembodied male voice. Sometimes I would awake in the middle of the night, only to hear what sounded like someone walking around the flat, though I knew that there was nobody there. That very morning of my key story, just after I had woken, I heard a loud bang. I got up to investigate, and on walking into the kitchen, I found my thermal lunch bag, which I'd left on the worktop, was on the floor. I couldn't explain that. My story continues that very morning. At the end of my week's stay there, I was leaving to head back up north. I was taking my suitcase and some other bits and pieces down to the car, which was parked on a large gravel parking area at the back of the house. My flat door and the main house back door were such that once they were closed, unless you had the key, you couldn't get back in. So I always got in the habit of double checking that I had the house keys before I closed the flat door. That day I did my double check, and then I put the keys in my pocket and I headed down to the car with my suitcase. When I got to the car I was cursing myself. I had left the car keys back in the flat. I ran back up to the flat, let myself in, found the car keys, grabbed them and head back down. I chucked the suitcase and other bits and pieces into the boot, and then the last job was to return the keys back into the flat and leave them inside as agreed with the landlady. I put my hand in my pocket. No keys. I checked all my other pockets. Nothing. I pulled everything back out of the boot, even opened my suitcase. Nothing. I just couldn't find them. Starting to panic slightly, I started searching on the ground. I traced my steps back to the house, and then back again, and then around the car, around and around, and sometimes on my hands and knees, even looking under the car. But nope, I just couldn't find them. I decided I must have dropped them inside when I went to get the car keys. Then in an even bigger panic, I realised that I'd actually locked myself out of the house. Fortunately, I was able to buzz another flat in the house to let me in, and thankfully my door from my flat hadn't actually snapped shut. It was still slightly ajar, so I was able to get back in. I searched inside the flat, no keys. Followed my steps back all the way down the stairs, ensuring all those doors were propped open to make sure I could get back in. I redid the search across the gravel, again around and round my car, sometimes again on my hands and knees. Stuff in and out of the boot again, they were just nowhere to be seen. Ironically, when I come downstairs initially with the suitcase, it had been a bright sunny day, but as I started to look around the ground for the keys this second time, it suddenly got darker and the wind whipped up really badly and it started to pelt with rain. And I was thinking to myself at the time, oh my god, I feel like I'm in a scene of an Omen film, and just like something was trying to stop me finding the keys and preventing me from leaving. Anyway, close to tears, frustrated as I needed to leave to get on the road, and resigned to having to call the landlady to tell her I'd lost the keys, I threw my head back and I yelled, "Please God, help me find my keys." As I straightened my head up, I just glanced down to my right, and there they were, the keys. I was gobsmacked. I swear I had searched that area on my hands and knees several times, over and over. Of course, I grabbed the keys and did the thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you God thing. I also noticed at that point that the sun was shining again and then there was no sign of wind or rain. Anyway, I took the keys back up to the flat, I picked up the rest of my gear and I got the hell out of there. I'm still amused at this event. I second guess the experience all the time, thinking that maybe I just had not seen them, but at the same time I know how much I searched that area, and for them just to be just suddenly there as I glanced down in that moment, well, it just seemed plain weird.